Friends, today's story will touch your heart and leave you in complete awe. In the Wild West, a kind rancher offers shelter to his Apache neighbor, but what happens the next day will shock you like nothing else. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and drop your thoughts in the comments, because this story is packed with emotional and unforgettable moments. So don't wait any longer. Let's jump right into this incredible tale and see how one act of kindness changed everything. The wind howled across the open plains, carrying dust and whispers of the Wild West. James Cooper, a rugged rancher with hands hardened by years of labor, was checking his cattle along the wooden fences when he noticed a thin wisp of smoke rising in the distance. It wasn't from his property, and instinct stirred in him, a mix of curiosity and concern. Something was wrong. The horizon glowed faintly orange under the setting sun, and James' horse moved faster, carrying him toward the source. In a land where survival often meant solitude, James knew he couldn't ignore a neighbor in trouble. As he approached, the outline of a small, fragile cabin came into view. Smoke poured from the chimney unevenly, suggesting a fire gone awry. From the doorway, a figure emerged, a woman with dark hair tied back, soot smudging her cheeks, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and uncertainty. James slowed his horse and called out gently, asking if she was all right. The woman, Kaya, a strong yet wary Apache, hesitated before answering. The fire had damaged her modest home and supplies, leaving her unsure where she could stay for the night. James felt a surge of compassion he hadn't expected. Without a second thought, James offered her shelter at his ranch. The words were simple, yet heavy with meaning in a land where trust was earned with actions, not promises. Kaya's eyes flickered with caution. Accepting help had never been easy for her. She had survived hardships that demanded independence and self-reliance, yet something about James' steady presence and genuine concern softened her defenses. After a pause, she nodded, allowing herself to accept. The decision carried risk, yet it also marked the beginning of something neither of them could predict, a connection born from kindness amidst the harshness of the frontier. James guided Kaya back to his cabin, a modest structure built from weathered wood with a fireplace that promised warmth against the night's chill. He showed her to the guest room, ensuring she had fresh blankets, food, and water. Kaya moved carefully, taking in the surroundings with quiet appraisal. She noticed the simplicity of the ranch, the practicality of the layout, and the subtle signs of James' hard work etched into every corner. Despite her cautious nature, she felt a flicker of relief. For the first time in days, she wasn't alone, and there was a sense of safety she hadn't realized she was craving. That evening, they shared a simple meal by the hearth. Conversation was minimal, practical, yet each word carried unspoken understanding. James spoke of the cattle, the fences, and the work ahead, while Kaya offered quiet observations, occasionally helping him tend to chores or prepare tools for the coming days. The silence between them was comfortable, a rare peace in a world where uncertainty was constant. James couldn't help but notice the resilience in her eyes, the quiet strength that mirrored his own in a different way. A bond was forming, subtle yet undeniable, in the shared rhythm of daily life. The next morning, the first golden rays of sun filtered through the window. Kaya approached James hesitantly, her voice soft but steady. "Is your offer still good?" The question hung in the air, heavier than it seemed. It was more than shelter she sought. It was trust, and a quiet test of his sincerity. James met her gaze, his voice firm yet kind, affirming that she was welcome for as long as she needed. Relief washed over Kaya, a rare vulnerability showing in her expression. She realized that this offer was not temporary, but a genuine chance for safety and companionship. Days passed, and Kaya began to settle into ranch life. She worked alongside James, learning to tend to the animals, repair fences, and manage the land. Her knowledge of survival in the wilderness blended seamlessly with James' experience as a rancher. In return, James found himself drawn to her wisdom, her patience, and the quiet courage she displayed in every task. Their conversations, once sparse, began to deepen, touching on memories, dreams, and glimpses of the world each had known before the frontier brought them together. Small gestures, like the brushing of hands while mending a fence, sparked warmth neither expected. Evenings brought quiet moments by the fireplace. Kaya would recount stories of her childhood, her family, and the lessons she had learned from her people. James listened, captivated, and sometimes shared his own tales of life on the plains, of losses, triumphs, and the endless challenges of the land. Through these exchanges, trust grew. Each story, each shared memory, built a foundation for a connection that neither had sought, but both began to cherish. The boundaries of culture and past hardships slowly faded, replaced by mutual respect and the subtle beginnings of affection. The ranch itself became a space of shared growth. Storms would come, testing the fences and the animals, yet they faced these trials together. Kaya's nimble hands and resourcefulness complemented James' experience and strength. One afternoon, a sudden thunderstorm forced them to shelter in the barn. As they secured the horses, Kaya glanced at James with something unspoken in her eyes, a recognition that his initial act of kindness had become far more than a simple offer of shelter. It was trust, partnership, and perhaps the first stirrings of something deeper, something neither dared to name just yet. Over the weeks, routine built comfort. Meals were shared, chores completed side by side, and small conversations grew into laughter, teasing, and moments of silent understanding. James began to admire the pride and dignity Kaya carried, while she saw in him steadiness and kindness she had rarely encountered. Even small touches, brushing dirt from a sleeve, passing tools, offering water, were moments charged with meaning, signaling a bond beyond words. Life on the ranch was no longer just survival. It became a shared journey of connection and mutual reliance. One evening, under sky painted with stars, they stood outside the cabin watching the moonlight dance across the plains. Kaya's voice broke the comfortable silence. She thanked James not just for shelter, but for seeing her, for offering safety, and for creating a place where she could feel at home. James replied, his voice low and sincere, that her presence had brought life, joy, and perspective he hadn't known he was missing. In that quiet exchange, a deeper understanding emerged, a promise unspoken but deeply felt, that what began as kindness was growing into a meaningful, transformative bond. Spring arrived on the plains, bringing soft rains and fresh green growth across James' ranch. Kaya had fully settled into the rhythms of ranch life, her presence now a part of the land itself. She moved with confidence, tending the animals, mending fences, and helping James organize the ranch in ways he hadn't considered. Yet, beyond the chores and responsibilities, something deeper was blossoming between them. Quiet moments shared over a warm meal or during early morning chores became opportunities for connection. The trust that began with shelter now flourished into companionship, each day weaving their lives closer together. One afternoon, while riding through the grazing fields to check on the cattle, James noticed Kaya pausing by a small stream. She was watching the water ripple over stones, her reflection mirrored alongside the clouds. James slowed his horse and watched her quietly, marveling at how someone could carry so much strength and still hold moments of softness. Kaya looked back at him, a subtle smile playing on her lips. That small gesture spoke volumes, gratitude, comfort, and perhaps something more. James felt a stirring in his chest, a warmth that had grown quietly over the weeks they had spent together. Evenings became their favorite time. After the long day's work, they would sit on the cabin porch, listening to the wind through the grass and the distant calls of coyotes. Kaya would hum soft Apache songs, her voice blending with the sounds of nature. James often joined her, attempting the melodies, laughing at his mistakes, and feeling a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. The porch became their sanctuary, a place to talk about hopes, dreams, and the lives they had led before the ranch brought them together. Each evening, their bond deepened, their connection evolving from respect into a quiet, tender love. One morning, as the sun rose over the eastern hills, James found Kaya in the barn, tending to a horse that had been spooked by the night's storm. He watched her work with patience and skill, her hands gentle but confident. He approached, offering assistance, and their hands touched briefly. In that instant, James realized how much she had become a part of his life, not just a neighbor, but someone whose presence made the world brighter. Kaya looked up at him, and their eyes met. Words were unnecessary. The unspoken understanding between them said everything they needed to know. Days later, as they worked together on repairing a fence along the northern edge of the ranch, a sudden rainstorm forced them to take cover under the barn roof. The downpour created a rhythmic drum against the wooden walls, and for a moment, they simply stood there, soaked but unbothered. Kaya laughed, brushing rain from her hair, and James felt a rush of emotion he could no longer contain. He reached for her hand, and she didn't pull away. Instead, their fingers intertwined, and in that simple touch, they acknowledged the feelings that had been quietly growing for weeks. Love had found its way into their lives naturally, without force or expectation. Spring turned into summer, their relationship continued to blossom. Together, they faced the challenges of ranch life, unexpected storms, stubborn animals, and long days under the sun, but these hardships only strengthened their bond. James admired Kaya's courage, resourcefulness, and unwavering spirit. Kaya appreciated James' patience, steadiness, and genuine care. In each other, they had found a partner who could be relied upon, someone who understood both the struggles and joys of life on the frontier. Their love was quiet, steady, and profound, built on trust and shared experiences rather than mere passion. One evening, as they watched the sunset paint the plains in gold and crimson, Kaya turned to James with a question that had been lingering in her mind. Could we stay like this together? The words were tentative, almost fragile, yet they carried a depth of meaning. James, his eyes reflecting the fading light, smiled and took her hand. He assured her that the door of his heart and home was always open. The offer of shelter that had brought them together had become a promise of life shared, love nurtured, and a future built side by side. Winter eventually came, bringing with it snow that blanketed the plains and froze the streams. Life grew quieter, more introspective, and yet James and Kaya found joy in the small comforts of the season. They worked together to prepare firewood, tend the livestock, and repair equipment, all while cherishing moments by the hearth. Each day, their companionship strengthened and their love deepened. The hardships of the land were no longer burdens, but opportunities to grow together, facing every challenge as partners, friends, and now unmistakably as lovers. One snowy night, as the wind howled outside, James and Kaya sat close by the fireplace. Kaya shared stories of her ancestors, the Apache traditions, and the lessons passed down through generations. James listened, captivated, and in return shared tales of his own family and the history of the ranch. Their shared history and cultures blended seamlessly, creating a tapestry of mutual respect, admiration, and love. In that warm cabin, the cold outside was meaningless. Inside, their hearts had found a home in each other. The frontier, once harsh and lonely, had transformed into a place of warmth, connection, and belonging. By the following spring, it was clear to both James and Kaya that their lives were irrevocably intertwined. The ranch no longer felt like James' solitary domain. It was their shared home, a testament to the trust and love that had grown between them. They spent long days working together, sharing meals, and enjoying the beauty of the plains. Their love was quiet yet profound, built on the foundation of mutual respect, kindness, and the simple joys of life in the Wild West. What began as an act of generosity had become a lifelong partnership, one neither had expected but both cherished deeply. The story of James and Kaya became known among neighbors and townsfolk not as a tale of passion, but as a story of compassion, trust, and the gentle unfolding of love. James' simple act of offering shelter had changed the course of both their lives, bringing two souls together in a harsh world. Kaya's presence had brought light, joy, and strength to James' life, while his unwavering support gave her a sense of safety and belonging. Together, they built a life that celebrated resilience, kindness, and the unexpected magic of the Wild West. In the end, the ranch stood not just as a symbol of hard work, but as a testament to love, trust, and partnership. James and Kaya, once strangers bound by circumstance, had found in each other a home. The plains, the animals, and the endless skis bore witness to their shared journey, a life defined not by loneliness or struggle, but by connection, compassion, and enduring love. Their story reminds us that sometimes the simplest acts of kindness can lead to the most extraordinary outcomes, and that love, in its quiet, steadfast form, can flourish even in the wildest corners of the world. Thank you for joining us at Romance in the Wild West. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, share, and comment with your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to hear more stories of courage, love, and adventure in the untamed West. Until next time, remember that every act of kindness can change a life, and sometimes it leads to the most beautiful love stories imaginable.